This is what we're going to be covering today. We're going to do a brief introduction. We'll get to know our speakers. We're going to dive into what actually is sales psychology and why does it matter, and how can it benefit you as you boost your profits and approach your sales funnel. We're going to dive into 5 communication techniques, 5 acquisition strategies. So how do you turn those conversations into paying customers? And then 5 retention and upselling tips. So that's once you've got an active customer, how do you keep them as loyal fans, and how do you get them to spend more? Finally, we'll give some top 10 takeaways and have an open Q&A break. Who is PS Group? We're a creative marketing agency. We don't manage fan sites, but we are for sex workers, by sex workers. So the vast majority of our team are retired or current sex workers. These are all of our services. You can go check us out at wearepsgroup.com. These are all of our handles. We're huge on Blue Sky. We're big fans. So I think we'd love to see you there. And yeah, get in touch. Today's speakers, that's me. That's Carly David. I'm a retired sex worker. I'm also former vice president of business development for ad agencies, which is a fancy word of saying sales. I am a dog mom, and you're probably going to see some photo bombers at some point. And I'm really embarrassed, but I'm a super fan of MTV's The Challenge. I don't recommend getting into it because it's like 40 seasons and like now I'm in it. I'm stuck. I got to go with it. But it is my pleasure to introduce Queendom, who is our guest speaker today. She is a pro-dom, a femdom, a findom. She is the host of an excellent podcast, which you should go check out. It is thyqueendom.com. The show is Thy Queendom Come. And she is a top 30 fetish model on Sex Panther. She is a hedonist. She is sacred, sex magic. And eventually she's going to create a dog sanctuary. Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to add? Would you like to put
No, I think we'll add enough as we get into it. I don't need to get into myself right now. But I will be using my sex work riches one day to save stray dogs. So that's what all this is for.
We are going to start with, what is sales psychology? What the hell is it? So what is it? It is essentially the idea that if you want to know more about how to sell, you better know why customers buy. And that's how you're going to have more effective sales. It's basically psychological strategies that are guiding and influencing your customer, client, fans, subs. This is going to be sidebar. If I say fans, it is interchangeable with clients for in-person workers, subs for pro-doms. We're just, for shits and gigs, going to make it easier and say fans and customers. But please know that these principles apply to any product or service you're going to be selling. So we have to understand not just how to sell, but why people buy. So what are their motivations? What are the emotional triggers that cause them to finally push the sub button or to book an appointment? What makes them go from a prospect to a customer and eventually to a good, loyal, recurring customer? Okay, you want repeat. Obviously, retention is huge. So why does it matter? Basically, to increase your profits. With sales psychology, you are tapping into what the customer emotionally needs. What is the problem they are trying to solve by considering your product, your service? You can build deeper, more loyal relationships with sales psychology. And you're really just understanding what drives them to buy. Why should they choose you? And why should they choose you over and over? And how do you communicate and strategize subliminally with their need for your product or service? This is the funnel with the most amazing infographic. Apologies. We go from capturing attention, so spreading a wide net. Then, once you've got the attention, you want to interest them via engagement and education about your product and service. By engaging and educating them, you create a sense of desire for what you're selling. You are able to cultivate a sense of longing for what you have to offer. And then finally, you've whittled it down to the really good prospects. You've got a call to action, which motivates their purchase. And eventually, winning, you got your sale. We're going to stop for a second and just ask if anyone has any questions about what we've covered at this moment. Does anyone have any questions about the concept of sales psychology? Someone said, I have trouble with funneling from interest to motivation to buy. We got some ideas on that. We're going to be covering it in the acquisition section. So don't worry, Charlotte. We got some ideas for you. I want to say I have a poll. Okay, so we're just going to dive into the communication technique. Strategy number 1 is mirroring. So mirroring is essentially just what it sounds like. You notice, you pay attention to how the customer is speaking, their tone. If it is a face-to-face where you can see them, their body language. So similarities in energy and style. When you mimic that, people feel more trust in what you have because they're recognizing something that is very similar to them. So they feel understood and valued because of this. It builds a sense of rapport. So if someone is speaking really fast, like I do, then you want to pick up the pace. If someone gesticulates, uses a lot of hand gestures, try doing that. It creates a sense of them feeling they are on the same plane. And as a result, they're more likely to trust you.
All right, using empathy to connect. Guys, people want to be heard. They want to feel understood. People want to feel special while at the same time feeling normal. And I often describe like the space that I create to my clients. And I think that the space that all of us sex workers create is kind of this third space. It's not their personal world, it's not their professional world, but they're able to come into this kind of removed third space and bring all of that in and be totally unfiltered and real and take the hopefully positive benefits back into their lives. And in order to do that effectively, we have to, and in a way that keeps them coming back, right? Like we have to acknowledge their specific challenges. We have to actually be interested and ask questions about their needs, their desires, and we have to adapt to provide to them. I think sex workers are the most adaptable people on the planet, and I think you have to be in order to be successful in this field. Some clients need a softer touch and they need a listening ear, and some clients need to be forced to roll around in mud in a pig costume. However, engaging with the person, connecting with the person, the client, is separate from engaging with the kink. And I think that that's huge for this business. When I started out my business was primarily in person, and something I always did was I would start the session like a lot of you, I'm sure, like I started at the bar in order to kind of like meet them, talk about logistics, and apply like mirroring, for example, like start gauging where they're at so that I can start adapting before we enter into the room where I assume this role. It's like a quick way for me to connect with the person again before engaging with the kink. And obviously online work, it's a little bit different, but I found that mental separation does really help. It's important because of course there will be people who come in, they just want to whack off, they just want to get off and fuck off, and that's fine. But my big spenders, my consistent big spenders are the ones who I've taken the time to get to know outside of the play, outside of the role, because it's hard to have empathy for the person if you don't know them outside of the kink, if you don't connect on a personal level. And you can usher them into this. I think a lot of times people are a little bit nervous about that, but we can usher them into that. What does open-ended questions mean? I will tell you. You can usher them into this by asking open-ended questions, by asking about their experiences. What have they thought about? What are they thinking about? What do they get stuck on? Clients are surprised a lot of times when I speak to them like human to human versus speaking immediately to them as if versus like the role that they're supposed to play and the role that I'm supposed to play. I have had clients actually apologize for saying, oh, this is like boring life stuff, or I know we're supposed to be kinky right now, but I encourage it. Like I encourage them to be real with me. I have a sub who I have worked with for like 2 years, and for a year and a half of that time, like he would come in and just jump right into the mommy, like it would just, and we could only get about this deep because he really wasn't willing to. I was very bored with it. It was kind of like brainless activities working with him. And finally, several months ago, I like finally broke through and we were able to kind of get below the kink. I was able to connect with him outside of the kink. I heard his voice in his normal octave for the first time in a year and a half ever. Like I heard his voice, I got to know him, his person. And since then, not only are we having longer sessions, they're hotter sessions, because the humiliation or whatever it is I'm doing is actually rooted in truth. It's actually authentic. It's not just buzzwords that go around. It seems like up until that point, like he was very happy with just the buzzwords getting him off, and that's like what he thought that's like all it was. But it's always hotter and it always hits harder when it's like rooted in truth and when it's when it punches on that. Asking open-ended questions means anything like you're curious about to be able to do your job better. Like not only are you going to let them feel seen and heard and understood when you're asking questions about their life and who they are and how they got here and what they think about kink, but it also enables you to do your job better. And a practical way of doing that is just taking notes, taking off-platform notes, like how many times people delete, something happens, something goes awry, have your off-platform notes, have an Excel spreadsheet. It's a pain in the ass, but keep it updated, because when a client pops in, you haven't seen them for months, and you're able to bring up something or ask them on an update or something from months ago, they will lose their mind. So it's like using empathy, connecting, build that loyalty.
Yeah, open-ended questions. It's like it could be anything. It's just like not yes, no.
Yes or no questions. I stay so far away from yes or no questions because nothing makes me want to pull my freaking hair out than somebody being like, yes, mommy, or like, yes, queen. I'm like, give me an answer. Like, ask them things where they have to write. Like, they have to give you an answer.
The next communication is the sandwich technique. I use this a lot personally. It is when you're delivering information that they may not like, whether it be a no, whether it be constructive feedback, whether it may be something they're not going to be stoked about. Sandwich it between two pieces of positivity. So if someone is saying, can I get a discount? Say, I'm so stoked that you're really interested. Unfortunately, I don't give discounts, but I think you're really going to like it, and I would love to hear your feedback when you check it out. So it's a good way to upsell, and it's also a good way to just gently deliver the bad news by distracting them at the end by deterring their focus with something positive, something they're going to like. So they kind of forget the bad stuff. It's not as present. And Lowe's good with the storytelling.
Storytelling to connect. So I've always like thought that storytelling was one of those powerful things ever. I actually wrote one of my theses about it in college. Using storytelling to show them your humanity. Clients love stories of my own discoveries and sexcapades and rendezvous and stuff going on. Like, it humanizes me. It makes me relatable. Which in turn makes it even hotter when I do enter into that powerful role or whatever role it is that I'm playing in the bedroom. When they have context behind that, I don't know if you guys can hear my dog sobbing in the background that he's locked away. For people to have context behind them, it makes it so much hotter when you actually do enter into that play. Like, you're no longer just a facilitator of orgasms. You are a person whose life experience and work and brain has led up to you being able to provide this incredible experience for them. And they value you more when they see you as a friend. And it's the same as any other contacts. Like, when I become friends with the local bartender, I tip more because they're my friend now and I actually care, like, give a shit about them on a personal level. So really, like, breaking out of, I think sometimes, especially DOMs, but sex workers in general, like, we feel like we need to be in character all the time, but I actually think it's counterproductive. I think that they love to see the humanity, the person behind the role, just like we do. And another storytelling technique, very practical, telling stories to clients about what other clients are experiencing. And obviously this may not work if the client, if their fantasy is to be the only one, if that's the role you're playing, that obviously won't work. But I've found that the vast majority of my clients love to hear about what other clients are experiencing. They want to be able to picture themselves in the story, and then they do. And this might be one of the most powerful tools that I have used. I have one client who I've been working with for 2 years, and he was completely green when he came in. Like, he didn't know anything. He didn't know what he liked, didn't know what he didn't like. He couldn't tell me, but he was so nervous, could like barely speak. So I had to like really bring a lot and balance, like, exciting him but not scaring him. And so what I did was I used stories to kind of gauge where he was at, but then B, like, allow him to fantasize and picture himself in that story without feeling the pressure to act. So, like, without feeling the pressure to do the things. But then a lot of the time, by the end of the story, it's morphed into our own story, and now he's excited. So using stories to kind of, like, make other clients excited. And practically, I think this is huge, not overthinking your videos and audio responses. Like, when you're chit-chatting with clients and they want to hear stories about your day, they want to hear about this, they want to hear about that. People are tired of the green screen. People are tired of the bullshit. People want real, and it saves you time and energy to just give them that real. Like, don't lose out on sending a video to someone telling them about a funny story from your day just because your lashes aren't done. Like, they don't care. Like, just connect with them on a real level.
I'm so challenged with muting and not muting. Okay, we've got the last communication technique, which is social proof. This is in preparation for the sale. You want to leverage what everyone else has said. You want to share testimonials, reviews, quotes, success stories. That builds trust, builds credibility, and people always tend to go with what someone else has already endorsed. So, for instance, new movie out. Are you going to go to it because you've seen it in just the listings? Or you're more inclined to see it? Like, I'd be more inclined to see it if Lowe's said, hey, I just saw this movie. It looks great. I'm more inclined to go buy a ticket for that. It creates a bandwagon effect that people want to be a part of things that have been endorsed, that have already been deemed credible.
One thing I'll say about social proof, a very just technical thing. A lot of times I screenshot if one sub or one client says something and I know I can think of about 5 other subs who would like be driven crazy, I'll screenshot it, blur out, block out any identifying information and send that to the other subs and use that social proof. Like, and we'll talk about some other things related to this in a minute, but like, oh, look what my other client's enjoying. Like, you know, and using that personally, like sending it as messages to people.
Can people please put in the Q&A area if you have any questions about what we've covered? I'm seeing some in the chat, so
Yeah, I can speak to Katie's real quick or Kate's real quick. Yeah, so I always caveat it with like you can share as much as you want to, of course, but I'm just curious. I also sometimes I start off with sharing a little something about me and then asking them if they feel comfortable to share. Typically what I found is that they are excited. Like they are excited to share about themselves. Like I said, a lot of my clients have been like, wow, I've never been asked about this before. Like, wow, I didn't know that this was okay. Like, I know, you know, you're not my therapist, but no, I'm not their therapist. And I always say that as well. Like, I am not a replacement for therapy. However, this is a very therapeutic space. And when people can truly be real, when you give them that space to be, a lot of times they take it. I haven't had too many situations where it's gone to the point where I'm like, this doesn't feel professional. Obviously, like when I'm feeling like someone's friend, if somebody starts to take advantage of that, I'm very quick to be firm. Like just because we're friends doesn't mean you can just message me for free all the time or that you can say certain off the wall things. But typically people stay in line and you are allowed to create your own boundaries. I'm pretty open and like to talk about shit and I like them to talk about shit and that works for me. But it's up to you to keep that within the lines and just say if somebody says something you don't like, just respectfully, like this isn't the place for that.
absolutely. So some of the questions are, how do you connect personally with a client that wants to be the only one? I have trouble with connecting with them. So I would say into like sandwich technique. If they think they're the only one and you have to be like, I gotta go do another show or something, or I have an appointment and they think
Yeah.
you can always use the sandwich technique. Be like, I'm so excited to speak with you afterwards. Just mirroring what they're saying, making them feel that they are the only one.
And I also think that this is important specifically for our industry, right? Like just because I have my vanilla like time outside to connect with the person and then I assume my role and just because my role is like the dominant and whatever, it doesn't mean regardless I was a companion for a while, I was an escort for a while and I did the same thing. I connected with them as a person. Like if somebody is not willing to connect with you as a person to realize that like this is your business, this is your job, this is a service that you are providing. They need to be able to acknowledge that. And then when you go into the bedroom, baby, all bets are off. When you go into the bedroom, you're the only one. You're the only one. But if a client is unwilling to separate those things, the bar talk from, or the person talk from the play talk, you have to ask yourself, is that a client that you want? But when you're in that room, you're going to make them feel like they are the only one. But being able to connect with them in a real way, person to person, is going to help you be able to do that. And it takes two to tango. Your client has to be willing to do that as well. Like if they want to live under this facade that you are like their only one forever and that this is not a transaction, you have to ask yourself at the end of the day, how healthy is this? Like, do you want this client?
Also, it's sort of like, get a fucking arrangement.
Right, right. There's people for that. There's offerings out there for that.
And we're gonna get into upselling later.
Yes, and the
Question,
paywall
how do you
question.
upsell content or fan sites? We're gonna get to that during the retention section. How long do you usually chat before pitching a sale? Do you want to take that, Lo?
Yeah, totally. It totally depends. Again, this is when those techniques on like mirroring, gauging, like sometimes I know that when they come in, they're ready to go and I will pitch it. A lot of times, which we're going to be talking about some techniques in a minute, a lot of times like I will move slower. I will dangle fruit. I will see where they're at. Sometimes I realize my subs come in and they will pay a shit ton just to chat. Sometimes subs will come in thinking that they want to play and then they just want to chat and I end up doing 2 hours of a video call and they are just wanting to like connect on a human base. So you have to be able to read it situation by situation. Like
I think it's important. We're going to get into this in acquisition. it's basically like you don't want the person, the fan, the sub, whomever, to get the impression that you're thinking of them as a sale. You want to have them, and this is why it's psychological, is that you want them to think that you actually give a shit, as opposed to like you just give a shit about their wallet. So,
And what's crazy here is that I'm sure I have a lot of people on here who are findoms like myself. Even my fin sluts, my biggest fin sluts, my ones that I have secured 4-digit sends from, I still acknowledge them, maybe more than anybody else. I acknowledge them outside of play, because just because they want to be a wallet does not mean that their person 100% of the time wants to be a wallet, and anybody can make them a wallet. Only you can actually get to know them and make that hotter.
Okay, these are all really good questions. Really quickly, because we got so much to cover here. Someone asked, what's an example of the sandwich technique? Upselling in a live show when someone is already paying per minute. Say, hey, I'm going to ask you something, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Why don't you just tip me a little extra? Or do you want a photo as well? Or go check out my video, which you can go and buy right now.
Or if a sub messages and is like, he saw one of my old videos and he's like, oh, I love fishnets so much. I love fishnets. And I'm not wearing fishnets right now. I'm wearing a bikini. And so I'll be like, oh, unfortunately, I'm not wearing fishnets right now. However, if you tip 25 bucks, I'll go put some on. You would probably really enjoy them. And so it's like bad news, potential great news, great news. Like just sandwich it in there.
Okay, so with your guys' permission, and we will get to all these questions, we do have a big open block at the end.
Can I comment on something real quick?
Please.
Real quick. How do you deal with clients who get too connected and want services for free? We'll touch on this in a minute, but it is important because I think when people hear like be their friend, like if somebody truly cares about you, if somebody gets to know you and your expertise and your experiences outside of the kink, the goal is for them to respect you more, not less. If somebody starts respecting you less, I mean, you can only think about how they treat the people that they actually give a shit about in their life, but you are to call that out. You have to shut it down. Like you have to say, respect my time. I know that the reason you feel like such a good friend is because you're really fucking good at what you do. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but never let being their friend, like be a reason for someone to take advantage of you.
And of course, this is all within the umbrella of you as you.
Yes.
Your persona.
Yes.
You don't need to be divulging personal information. You're divulging
only as much as you want.
Yeah. You're divulging the information that is within your personal boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's still rooted in the personal.
Yeah, very true.
So we're gonna get going on acquisition strategies.
So avoid overeagerness. You want them purchasing your services to be their idea. Encourage business. Do not beg for it. I will encourage someone on why it's such a good idea to book a session with me, why they need to do this call, why they need this or need that. However, I will never ask. I will never say please. I will never act as if whatever I want them to do is for me. I am going to always make sure that they know that I'm wanting them to do something because it's best for them. It's best in their interest. Just like any commercial sales, I am providing a service that they need. And if they don't need it, so be it. Someone else does. You are selling a brand. We as sex workers, we are selling a brand, and we are to never talk to, people are attracted to successful brands. And we are not to talk to our clients or market on our social media pages as if we are a failing brand and it's their responsibility to save us. I hate how much desperate shit I see online, honestly. I'm like, that's not what customers, it's not what clients are attracted to. They are not doing you a favor by booking your service and by paying you. You're doing them a service by providing it and being so damn good at it. And that energy shift changes the conversations hugely. Encourage your clients, but don't be pushy. Gauge them every time. Think long term. Just because someone spent or sent a lot of money in the past does not mean that they're going to do it every single time. And if you go in expecting that, you're going to scare them away from spending a little, which can easily turn into a lot. And lastly, know when to walk away. People leaving is not a bad thing. In any sales that you do in any field, they will say, get to the no. Do not waste time getting to an inevitable no. And there's a balancing act between getting to the no and not being too pushy. And the balancing act lies in knowing exactly who your client is and knowing when to walk away when this client is not that. It's going to be hard to attract your ideal clients if the only thing you know about them is that you want their money. What do they look like? What are they like? Picture them. And if this client's not that, then screw off. And there's this perception of exclusivity when you do that. When you're choosy with your clients, you're not afraid to lose clients. And also, you're not afraid to call clients out, and they can either course correct or they don't. It's like this thing, I don't need you. If no significant boundary has been crossed with the client, but they're just kind of like on you, being honest about that, being upfront, let them course correct or not. I have a client who about a year and a half ago sent me a message on Sex Panther, and he said he wanted to sub, but he was like super macho and like the toxic subbing of like, make me and like, ugh. And I was just like, no, dude, like, I'm not here for this. Like, this is not the energy I like. I told him to go away. I charged him extra. I charged him double to send him video responses in which I was telling him to fuck off. And he kept coming back. And it turns out he was just completely new in the space, had no idea like how to act. And he really did want to practice being submissive. And so he course corrected. Now we've done a ton of sessions together. I've made a ton of money off of him. And we started the relationship off in like bold honesty. Now he's boldly honest with me, which I appreciate. And we have built this relationship. And I've actually made money off of honestly being okay with letting money leave. And yeah, get rid of the 10%, like get rid of the bad shit, the shit that's not fitting with you, to create space for the good shit. That's an abundant mindset. Limiting available options. Like, it's so easy to just send people like a bunch of shit, especially as content creators as well. Like those of us who are sex workers and then became content creators. It's tough. Like, it's tough to know like what, but just do it. Just choose it. Make a selection, send it to them. Do not overwhelm. If people have a ton of shit to choose from, they're going to end up choosing from nothing. Make it clean, make it neat, make your offers, the different choices, make them clear on what they're picking. Drive the, like, whatever you want people to buy. We're going to talk more about this, like with price anchoring, decoy effect. Like, you choose which one I want them to buy, and then you kind of create the perception around that, but don't overwhelm. No one likes to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like going on fucking Fashion Nova's website or something, you're just like, I can't do this. And you just get off.
No one wants a Cheesecake Factory menu.
No Cheesecake Factory menu. Like, you are exclusive, you are posh. If you think about like VIP places, you think about VIP settings, they have like 2 drinks on the menu. That's it. And they're both expensive as fuck.
Exactly. So we're going to go to price anchoring. Lo mentioned that. So what is price anchoring? It is literally taking your most expensive option and presenting it first. So people are going to get sticker shock a lot of the time, in which case you say, okay, how about the next package, which is the silver package versus the gold or the bronze or whatever you deem and title your packages. The idea that eventually the lower priced option is going to seem really affordable in comparison with what you presented first. Again, don't overwhelm people. Like, give them 2 options, 3 options max.
Yeah.
But put the most expensive option first. First of all, you never know if someone's just going to be like, okay. And also just in the juxtaposition, the contrast of pricing. You want them to make a purchase. Eventually, it's going to be, you don't care what type of purchase because you know how to retain and upsell them and have them long term. However, you want to highlight the value involved with what your product or service is, not just the cost. And just as a side note, to be legal, apparently these packages have to be legitimate. It can't be just something you make up that doesn't actually have the value that is equated to that price. They have to be real. But you can create packages that wouldn't necessarily be real, but they do have a value to them. We're going to talk give to get. This is a good one. This is what we all typically do just by participating in posting things on social. You're giving them something for free to entice them to buy. It creates a sense of obligation, like people feel indebted because they've taken something from you. But in return, they're going to be more likely to actually follow through with a purchase. So here's an example, is that we are going to be releasing a PDF with the advanced strategies after this. We want to get your email to be able to do that. So you have to put in your email and then you'll be able to download. You see this a lot all over the place, but when you comment someone like, gimme, 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 they're less inclined. They're going to be pushing off a little bit. Whereas you say, here, I'm giving you something, they're going to be more likely to return in kind.
Yeah, I think like this is something that online, like if you send mass messages, like sending mass messages, a picture, a GIF or something for free is definitely a part of that. The opposite side of the scale is giving too much for free. Like it's often like across sites, people have said that when you give a lot of nudity for free, it discourages, like, for example, it discourages people from coming back and getting more. Like sometimes you can use that like as a little teaser to have them come get more. Priming, kind of on that same, like, you have no idea what's coming. Like using subtle language, you have no idea what's happening. I can't believe I just did this. This is exciting. You're teasing bits of information and bits of content before putting it out there. So if you take a super hot custom or you take a super hot video that you want to post and you're going to post it for $100, don't just post it immediately when you're excited about it. Spend a couple of days clipping short little clips to post on Twitter, to post out there, to send personally. Like if you have a couple people you know are going to go crazy over this, message them personally and be like, I have something that you're going to love. Tease it for a few days. Set the mental stage for whatever you want them to do. For example, one way that I prime clients often is whenever they book like an in-person session at a dungeon or whatever, I will prime them to add on a trip to the sex shop. And I will kind of like, once they book their session, I'll kind of talk to them like, oh, but wouldn't it be fun if we had such cute matching outfits? Or wouldn't it be fun if we got to like shop together and I just got to pick out a bunch of things for you? And then after I get them excited in that story a little bit, I'll be like, well, for this much, we could just add on a trip to the sex shop before your session. Works 9 out of 10 times in a way that it wouldn't work by just randomly was like, hey, do you want to go to the sex shop before your session? So priming them. Also, I primed one of my recent priming things recently was I was on an LF, a Loyal Fans private live with a Queendom sub. And I knew I was like, I want to push him. And I was like, I want to get him to send 4 fucking digits. And so I knew he likes the sound of like the ching ching. And like, I know he likes sending in general. So I just started talking about like, oh, I love how the different sounds, you know, when you send $10 versus $50 versus $100. I love the different sounds. I put it in his idea. And then eventually I was like, I wonder if it makes a different sound when it's like $1,000. And then he became curious. And then of course, then he sent that 1K tip. So it's like priming the conversations. Marketing is also a way of priming, helping people understand who you are before they even get to you. For me, like my podcast is a way that I prime my clients. Like they're able to go listen to it, get my mindset, understand who I am, and then they're able to kind of come into my space already knowing what I expect. So just like priming that perfect customer.
We got another question break. I'm so glad like people are asking questions. I love this. Does anyone have any questions related to the acquisition strategies that we covered? whether that be priming, price anchoring. We're going to get to retention and upselling.
Quickly, how do you know which content is good for promo and which is better to keep paywalled? It's going to be different for everyone because it's like, it depends on what type of content you produce. If you're producing super X-rated, like hardcore stuff, then you need to create the scale for yourself. Like, what is going to be the little bits of teasing that I am going to be okay putting out there? If you're not doing as hardcore stuff, if you're doing like, if your bread and butter is showing the soles of your feet, then you don't need to be doing that on main. Like, you don't need to be doing that on Twitter. If the bread and butter are the soles of your feet, you need to be posting up on something that's a tease, using pixels, using click cut a lot, like cut where I'm taking off my shirt and I'm getting right here and then it's cutting, like using little the ways to tease them based on what your bread and butter content is. It looks different for everyone. So you have to kind of gauge and create levels for yourself of like, this is the shit people are going to pay the high dollar for. And then there's a scale in that. And then this is the stuff I should be giving out for free to tease. Thanks, Charlotte.
Deal with those who keep asking what we want. Tell them.
Oh, is that a question?
That's a question. Tell them.
How to deal with those who
if you want 4 digits, tell them 4 digits.
Listen, it is so annoying to me when I have subs who are like, oh, anything, like no limits. What do I want? Like, honestly, like I'm about to say this in a second too. Just don't be afraid going balls to the walls. Like if somebody's going to say that, like, oh, you have no limits. Okay. Like, all right. What do I want? $1 million and a fucking boat. Like, hello, like use it as a way to learn. Like, what do you mean? What do I want? What are you able to provide? Like, let's start there, like flip it back on them. Like,
we're going to get into retention. And again,
yes.
I forgot to mention so many of these strategies overlap.
Yeah.
They are meant to be used cohesively because they result in the same objectives, which is build trust, emotional connection, credibility, loyalty. And part of that, thinking long-term.
Thinking long-term is important because like, obviously we all got to make money and there will always be clients who just come in and go and they want to come in and they want to get off now. And your purpose is to make money off of them. And that's that. But others have the potential to be super long-term, high spending clients, and longevity in this business is about being able to decipher which one a client is and then acting, prioritizing appropriately. Planting seeds means talking about the future, their goals, find out what they want, what they're fantasizing about, talk about future plans, discuss possible scenarios, give them homework to go to the sex shop and find this or that. Basically put it in their head, a future with you in it. For example, like one I use with think long-term strategy a lot is ass training, anal training. These guys come in here and they want, I'm going to keep this as PG as possible. They want these crazy, like, they want this very intense thing when they've not really experienced anything at all yet. And so one way I think long-term with them is like, think about where you could be in a couple of months. We're going to send you to the shop and we're going to start small and then think about what you could be. I tell them stories about other subs and their success stories. And so all of a sudden they're thinking long-term about their own goals, their own desires. And I become the only one that can help them facilitate that future, like that can facilitate them into that future. And that's the goal.
Tap into FOMO. You know about this, Lo.
Yes, tap into FOMO, literally language. Like you do not want to miss out on this. You do not want to be the only one who doesn't get to experience this. Remember VIPs, this has been tough for me because it's just a lot of work, right? But it's a lot of work, but it pays off. People love VIP. When you go to a club, the VIPs are not in the corner, like being quiet. No, like everyone in the club knows where the VIPs are and they know that they are not VIP. And that's what we want. We want everyone who's not in VIP to obnoxiously know that there's people in VIP and they are getting a way better experience than you are. You're a peasant. You want to be VIP and you want to pull people into that. And then once they are VIP, you have to treat them like VIP. You have to give them exclusive treatment. When you get a testimonial, when one of your VIP responds about how amazing this is, you screenshot that, you post it, you send it to people who are on the fence. You use this sense of like, this is where you want to be. It's FOMO. Activate it.
Yeah,
People act on FOMO.
absolutely. We have a client, Little Puck, who is always doing like, I've got these, but there is an expiration date on it. I've got
Yeah.
exclusivity, limited availability,
Mhm.
and limited time to
Yeah.
be able to take advantage of that offer.
That's why places like Loyal Fans and stuff have the things where you can do a 7-day sale for 7 people. Like there's a reason that there's a number and that there's a time for that. It's a set psychology. Oh, also with FOMO, like newsletters and Carly does my newsletter. I've been waiting forever to get it started. Shameless plug. I'm finally getting it started. Other way is like the podcast that I do, which another shameless plug. I'm always looking for awesome sex workers to come on and share their stories. So I put my email in the chat earlier. If anybody wants to come on, send me an email. We can chat. Consistency is the one thing that like I like would cry about when I first got into this world. I am not the most consistent with social media. I am not the most consistent with posting on my live streaming and shit. And like, I think that is obviously important. It builds trust. And I think we get that like drilled into us a lot. It's like, you have to post all the time. You have to stick to this thing. But I think truly the reason I've been successful in the way that I've been successful is even if I'm not consistent in those way, I'm working on it. I'm consistent in what I deliver and how I show up. My clients know exactly what they're going to get when they come to me every single time. And if I'm in a space where I cannot provide that value, if I cannot provide that what they're expecting, I don't show up. And when I don't show up, I let them know why. I don't just fucking fail, right? Like saying you're going to do something and then not doing it, it is the quickest way to lose clients, to lose trust. And it's like all this work is for nothing. I've never had a client be mad ever that I've said, I'll get this video to you by the end of the week. And then I say, sorry, life came up. It will be to you by this time. They've never been mad. Mostly they're just really appreciative that I have taken the time to reach out to them. Being consistent with your VIPers as well, like your high quality, if it comes down to it, again, prioritizing your clients, deciphering your clients, prioritizing them. If you have a bunch of people on the line and there's one that's a VIP and a big spender, you know where to focus your energy. Don't get lost in the madness or like the potential maybe good customers.
Don't overpromise.
Yeah.
Over deliver.
So
basically, it's the idea, if someone gets a custom and you accept that purchase, you got to deliver it.
Yeah.
No one is going to be mad if you say, I need another week. They're
Yeah.
going to be mad if you just don't send it.
Yeah.
The next is the endowment effect. You want people to make that initial purchase because they feel they have a stake in you. They are investing in you as a brand and your products and your services. And they place higher value on the things that they own. So it is perceived value of your product or service because they've invested themselves into it. And when they invest, they're more likely to stick around. You give more leeway when you have skin in the game, so to speak. And finally, personalization. This is really, really big to the extent you can do it, but it's going to make a major difference in your upsells. Tailor messages. So you know that when you get an email blast from a brand, sometimes they have your name in the subject line. Sometimes they address it to you. They don't know who you are. They are just employing the idea of personalization. You're more likely to engage, to read that email, to act on it if you feel like it's coming to you. So they feel seen, they feel valued. It increases loyalty, it increases repeat business. You want to leverage what you know about them to your gains. You want to base some things that you offer them on what they like, what their preferences are, what their purchase history has been. If someone is not purchasing, do a re-engagement type campaign where you're like, hey, haven't seen you for a while. Why don't you resub and I'm going to give you an extra week?
Yeah, personalizing even stuff like mass messages. I'm always very sure, like when I send mass messages, to make sure that it sounds like it's going directly to one person. I never phrase my mass messages as if it's going out like a mass message. And again, this goes back to taking notes and being able to like using their names. They fucking love when you use their names, especially if you haven't talked to them a while, or if the first message you send them is asking them about a question that you maybe spoke about in the call, they're going to be taken off. They're going to be like, oh my God, how did they, like, she remembered that, like, whatever, and they do feel like they have to respond to you, and they feel like, you really care.
We're going to do the top 10 takeaways really quick, and then we're going to open it the fuck up for any questions you have. Top 10 takeaways. Build rapport with mirroring. Make them feel I am in a safe space. Use storytelling to generate emotional connections. Limit your choices. Guide them to make the decision you want them to make. Leverage that fear of missing out. It will boost the idea of exclusivity, limited availability, and an urgency.
Awesome. Do not rush the sale. Focus on building trust. Don't focus on the one single interaction unless you've deciphered that this is a person who's coming in and wanking off and then it's going to leave and you're never going to see them again. If you know that, but for the most part, focus on long-term, building that trust. Price anchoring as a way to increase perceived value. So somebody's question earlier, like, how do I push this or that? This is how. You decide which one you want to sell, and then you create the perception around that. Deliver on your promises. Trust is your strongest currency. Trust is going to take you farther than anything else in this business. Provide value first, then ask for the sale using like good mass messages, your marketing. Even on my website, if they sign up for the newsletter, I offer 20% off on their first video session, which I don't offer discounts. So that's like the one place that you can go and get 20% off is if you sign up for my newsletter. And lastly, sales psychology is relationships, not transaction. Part of the reason I love sex work is because it's transactional. I love the transactional nature of our business. I think it's beautiful and healthy, actually. However, if you start to look at the clients within sex work as transactional, it's not going to take you very far. In order for it to work, it's based on relationships. It's based on building those relationships. And if you're feeling frustrated that if you're not wanting to build relationships with the clients that you have, you need to start identifying and looking for other clients that you do want to have relationships with.
Questions. If you want to get in touch with us, if you want to learn more about what we do at PS Group, please shoot us a note. We'd love to start a conversation. But we're gonna open the floor for questions.
A customer who says you're too expensive, I always say it's worth every penny. You get what you pay for. And if somebody's not going to things are worth how much you say they are. A Gucci bag is worth that much because somebody fucking said it is. So don't ever lower your standards or your prices because somebody can't afford it. The next person will be able to. As a king provider, I struggle a lot with balancing regular check-ins with clients, manage, binge, purge because of their shames. Any tips for this? Yes, like at the end of the day, you can be there for them and you can ask them how they're doing. But we have to recognize that a lot of people that we work with are just naturally existing in this cycle of deny, ignore, binge, guilt, repeat. And so a lot of times, I just really, even if my client wants to be called a human garbage can, I make sure that outside of that, they know that this is a space that they can come and feel good. I actually want them to feel good. I want them to be able to talk about what they're feeling. Obviously, I've had clients who I just know aren't doing well, and I encourage them to seek help outside. But the nature of our business, those cycles are going to exist. The best thing that we can do is try to usher it in a way that they feel good about, check in on them after them, encourage them to journal their feelings and their thoughts, and just always remind them that sex is not dirty. What they're doing here is not dirty. This is a way that they can engage with a part of themselves in a healthy way.
When it's slow on live cam, how can I nudge a non-interactive room to tip me without making it sound like I'm begging, bitter, desperate?
Good question. Yeah, we never want to sound begging, bitter, or desperate. We never want to say words like I need or, ugh, guys, you don't ever want to have that attitude. It's first of all, one thing you can say is why is no one buying me a drink? Hello, I'm thirsty. you know. Encourage people, like if you're shy, just speak in cash. You can use your wallet to speak. Getting your point across that you don't want them to be silent. You don't want them, they can't stay if they're not spending money, but not as if it's because you need their money. You're not online begging for their money. No, you're online providing a beautiful service, allowing them to be in your presence for a few minutes. And if they want to continue to be in it, they need to pay for it. Right. And it's just about how you get the same message across, but you always have the power. Like you always have to have the power when it's your room.
What do you think of auto tweets posts from gift or campsites for social proof? Good because it is, or bad because algorithms frown upon it? It's not great
so
for
tough.
algorithms, but that is an example of social proof.
I like it. I have a lot of mine. I don't have everything like loyal fans, and like some of them that are super active, I don't, because I don't want my feed to be blocked. I've needed to make a backup one. I think a backup page with all of your auto tweets is probably the best answer. I have not done it yet, but things that are like, some of them I do absolutely have it post, because I do think even though the algorithm screws us anyways. So being able to have that social proof out there, I think is great. I love to listen to what the client, what they want, when they keep asking, what do you want? They leave when I share. Okay. People who come in and them saying that like, whatever you want, goddess, whatever you want, that is a way for them to avoid responsibility for what they want. They already have in their heads what they want, and they are trying to evade responsibility and put it on you because maybe they're ashamed of it, maybe they're scared of it, maybe they're nervous about it. And if you just continue to like, they're just hoping that you're going to do things that hopefully line up to with what they want. And I don't think we need to be scared to ask questions like, what do I want? I want you to use your mind. I want you to use your creativity. I want you to tell me what it is you last jacked off to. What's the porn that you fantasize to? And then they give you a little bit of a nugget, and then you can kind of take that. And then once you get that nugget, they'll start talking, oh yeah, and then I thought about this, I fantasized about this. Then you actually have a direction to take them. Like nothing gets on my nerves more than the people who are just like, whatever you want, goddess. Yes, goddess. Yes, goddess. Like I'm bored to tears. And at the end of the day, if these people want to stay in that space, they're not the client for you. Like, don't be afraid to be like, I'm bored. I'm bored. Come back when you either get like shit tons of money. If you're going to be this bored, like this boring, send a lot of money, or go out, get a personality and come back. Like, do not be afraid to do that.
Yeah, someone asked about the future of Blue Sky and X, or will be revealed.
Beats me.
You know what? If you find out, let us know, because I don't think there's any way to predict where it's going to go, but I think we've all sort of done a mass exodus from X.
Yeah.
I'm finding that the engagement on Blue Sky is just worlds.
It's really nice.
And I think the fans and clients are slowly following. I think they are. They will go where we all go.
Yes, I think that's it. Remember, like we are on the front, we are on the forefront of every innovation, every movement, everything in history since the beginning of humans. And us moving to Blue Sky will not be any different. I think if we go and we stay strong and we go there, I think the subs will follow. I've already started to see that they have. So just stay hopeful.
You get clients or subs or fans on X, I don't think it's time to write it off quite yet. But if it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But there are a lot of things broken on there for a lot of people. So leverage what you can with these strategies wherever it is.
Wherever you can. And that's what, to Princess V's question, what if you're not getting any traction? I don't know how long you've been online. Consistency, I know you don't want to hear it, but like consistency, posting across platforms. I also think, kind of unrelated, but right now in the world of things, I think diversifying across platforms is the most important thing you can do. Getting on all sorts of different platforms that you know have internal, like they're pushing you internally as well. Posting nonstop. I mean, I took my business fully online, primarily online. I do some in-person stuff these days, but I'm very selective with it because my business is primarily online. But that was a little over 2 years ago. And for 2 years before that, I was like working in person and I was trying to be online. And I mean, I had like 2-ish years of being online where it felt stupid. Like it felt shitty to be like posting. I'm like, I'm fucking hot. I'm posting this picture. Like, why is there no traction on it? But if you quit, you'll never get traction, and everybody starts at 0. And eventually it doesn't take much. I don't have the biggest following at all, but I have some really great subs. I have great subs. I have consistent subs, and it's because I put my energy where it matters.
And it's also not about how much one video sells. It's how they all sell together. Doesn't matter if you're getting 1 hour bookings or an overnight. If your total is greater than it was before, you are growing, you are making progress, it is success. We got to wrap up, but you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for everything. Check out queendom.com. Please get in touch with us if you're interested in learning more. And we do have a brief survey that's going to come up after we close this. And we would absolutely love to get your feedback. We do these regularly, and we want to know what you want to learn about. So thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, Queen Lo.
Thank you.
Dogs barking in the background.
Dogs everywhere. Feel free to reach out to me too, guys. Follow me on X and all the spaces. I'll follow you back. And then I love having creators, sex workers, adult people, all the kinds on the podcast, because I'm just like trying to amplify all the voices. So if you're interested, if you have something to say, please email me. Reach out.
Thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate all your comments. So glad that you found it beneficial. And here's the next time.